state emergency?
Yes, somebody killed 2 girls over my daughter, my grandbaby, and her daughter, her friend. I'm on County Line Road.
What happened now, ma'am?
I don't know. They went for a walk and they're both down here dead.
They're down here dead?
They're dead.
Your granddaughter?
Yes, and her friend.
Okay, where's this at, ma'am? Stay calm.
I'm on County Line Road. Oh my God, I don't know. Help me, please.
Okay, ma'am, I need you to stay calm so we can get out there to you, okay?
Okay.
Okay, let me pull up my map and try to find out where you're at.
Please, 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 please. God, help me, please.
Okay, just stay on the line with me.
Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, my God, my God, my baby.
On June 8th, 2008, in the small town of Weleetka, Oklahoma, 2 young ladies by the names of Taylor Placker and Skyla Whitaker were out for a walk along the road next to Taylor's grandfather's house. As dinner time approached, Taylor's grandfather and mother yelled out for the girls to come inside. When they did not receive any response, they began calling the girls' phones. When neither of the girls picked up their phones, both grandparents became increasingly concerned, and Taylor's grandfather decided to go for a walk around the property to try to find them. As he reached a ditch between their house and the side of Country Line Road, he made a gruesome and tragic discovery. He first found a number of empty bullet casings along the ground next to the road, and slightly further down, he found the 2 girls. Both girls were lying face down, unresponsive, surrounded in a pool of blood. Skyla had been shot 8 times, and Taylor had been shot 5 times. The grandparents then immediately dialed 911. Law enforcement quickly arrived on the scene, and both girls were discovered in a condition that made this crime appear to be planned out in some way, possibly even committed as some form of revenge. Officers believed that this was the case, as both girls were discovered very close to home, completely clothed, and with no signs of sexual trauma in any way. However, the families were completely unaware of anybody that they may have upset or wronged in such a way that they would be looking to exact revenge on them. And so, the investigation and hunt for the killer of Taylor and Skyla began.
What we know today is they have extra investigators back on the scene and they've closed off the road. They're doing extra forensic work, some GPS, and trying to take some more accurate measurements. We do not know whether they found anything at this point or not.
A reward of $25,000 was offered for any information related to the case that subsequently leads to an arrest. Many tips poured in, but it appeared that each tip led to another dead end. And as it turns out, the town of Weleetka was very small and only housed a population of around 1,000 people at the time of the murders. So the police decided to start their search for suspects in Weleetka. They decided to look more into the bullet casings that were found at the scene. The casings actually came from 2 different firearms, so investigators wondered if there was more than one killer. They decided to look into which residents of Weleetka owned a firearm that uses either of the 2 specific ammunitions. They then contacted each owner and arranged an interview. Unfortunately, this did not appear to be heading anywhere, and the investigators felt that they were still at a dead end. So, the reward for information was upped again. This led to investigators later releasing a sketch of what they believed the suspect would look like. Again, the case went dry, and no information led to any progress finding the killer or killers. And 2 years later, in 2010, investigators made another public plea.
A coward gunned down 2 defenseless little girls just yards away from one of their homes. This coward has not come forward, but we do believe there are other people who have information as to who this person or these people are. I don't know why they have not come forward, but they need to. We are one piece of information away from making an arrest. These people who have the information can help us with that. And we plead to them today to come forward.
Unfortunately, any of the tips that came from this plea didn't go anywhere. Another year later, on July 29th of 2011, a 23-year-old woman, a resident of Okmulgee, named Ashley Taylor, was reported missing by her mother. About a half hour away from Weleetka is a bigger town of 10,000 people known as Okmulgee. Ashley was last seen by a family member just 2 weeks earlier, on July 15th, as she and her fiancé were leaving Okmulgee and heading on their way to Louisiana to tie the knot. Her mother waited to report her missing on the 29th because Ashley claimed that she would be home from Louisiana by that date. Ashley had also stopped responding to her calls and messages just 2 days after leaving, and had not wished a happy birthday to her brother, who she was very close with. Officers responded to the missing persons report and quickly decided to open an investigation. They sought help from the community and quickly received some response. As it turned out, Ashley was actually witnessed by a couple of passerbys just 2 days before heading to Louisiana. standing on the side of the highway directly between Okmulgee and Weleetka. This is the same day that she stopped replying to calls and messages. Investigators then decided to focus in on the man that she said she would be with during her trip to Louisiana. Her fiancé, Kevin Sweat. This is Kevin Sweat. Kevin Sweat met Ashley Taylor in high school, and the two instantly clicked. They were both fairly outcasted by their peers and seemed to find an interest in each other, which eventually led to a long-term relationship together. When the officers confronted Kevin regarding the whereabouts of Ashley, he told them that he had no idea. They confronted him about the story that Ashley had told her mother about the two going to get married in Louisiana. Kevin admitted to this, saying that yes, on the 15th, that was the plan. However, there was now more details to the story. Kevin stated that him and Ashley had indeed planned on heading to Louisiana to get hitched. However, they didn't leave town until the 17th. On their way out of town, the two had gotten into a very serious fight. One that had gotten relatively physical, with Ashley swinging at him while he drove. So instead of continuing to Louisiana, Kevin stated that he broke up with Ashley, pulled over, and let her out on the side of the highway, which is what led to the tips from any witnesses. Kevin then reassured that this was the last moment that he saw her. After leaving her on the side of the road, Kevin said that he then drove to his dad's house in Weleetka to decompress. He brought a handful of Ashley's things and then burnt them in a fire as a way to free himself from their breakup. He then went back home to Okmulgee and went to bed. Law enforcement found this story quite suspicious, but as there was still nothing directly connecting him to the disappearance, Kevin was not held or arrested. 2 days later, Kevin spoke to the police again. This time, he had a brand new story. Just like his previous story, Kevin stated that while heading to Louisiana, Ashley became enraged with him. They had an argument that kept getting worse and worse. Ashley began punching him and pulling on his hair, and since he was operating the vehicle on the highway, Kevin said that he felt that he had to protect himself. So as he fought back, he pulled a knife on her. He then pulled the vehicle over next to a lake, and the altercation got even worse. Both Kevin and Ashley got out of the vehicle, Ashley still swinging on him and acting frantic, Kevin also upset. Kevin then stated that Ashley began repeatedly punching him in the face, and so he pulled that knife out of his pocket and threw it at her. Ashley then caught the knife and turned it on herself. Her neck was sliced along the jugular, and then she fell into the lake. Kevin said he tried to pull her out, but it was too late, so he returned home. Investigators were now completely in shock, as if this were a true story, it means that Kevin spent approximately 15 days without reporting this incident, and even lied to cover it up during the first interview. Law enforcement kept Kevin in custody while sending a team to investigate the lake. They did a thorough search and were unable to locate Ashley's body, so they obtained a warrant and searched the burn pit at Kevin's father's house in Weleetka. In the ashes, they found the remains of 23-year-old Ashley Celeste Taylor. Next to the burn pit, they found an axe covered in Ashley's DNA. Kevin was then immediately charged with first-degree murder. Kevin Sweat had a totally clean criminal history. He had a couple petty thefts when he was a minor, but not a single charge related to violence. He worked a few jobs at restaurants growing up and even claimed to want to be a police officer one day. He was known to be a fairly bright and friendly young man, but one day during his relationship with Ashley, he completely changed. It was the day he was told that his older brother passed away from a drug overdose. Kevin slowly began to unravel since then, creating an online blog where he would post emotional rants, quotes, and journal entries, as well as pictures of himself holding guns. Ashley had also mentioned in the months before her disappearance that their relationship had gotten tumultuous due to his apparent implosion. In May of 2010, Kevin posted this to his blog.
I got engaged not too long ago. Biggest mistake of my life. I wish I knew she was a complete basket case before I got with her.
It also gets weirder when he then writes this post.
When my brother died, well, part of me really did die, and I don't like myself even more than I did 10 years ago. Guess you can say that's why I'm leaving.
It was around the time that this was posted that Ashley's mom claims that Ashley began acting weird and more timid around her. Investigators made an observation when they initially arrested Kevin, and that was a pile of shells on the floor at Kevin's house. And so they decided to take any of Kevin's bullets or guns in for testing just in case. What they found completely stunned them. As it turns out, the bullets and gun that were found at Kevin's house came back to match the casings that were found on the road next to the two young girls that were murdered in Weleetka 3 years earlier. Kevin was then immediately questioned regarding these murders, and he completely denied being responsible for them.
Did those girls do something to you? Did they say something to you? Did something set you off that day or what? There's no doubt about it, Kevin. There's no doubt about it that you were there and that you were responsible for it. That's not the issue there.
I've never met them. I've never even seen them before until I saw them on the news.
No, until you, that day, okay, we know that you were there and that you were responsible for that.
Despite admitting that he had been on that road on the evening of the deaths, Kevin took this even further. claiming that he might have been hallucinating at the time of the deaths.
But I don't want to hear no lies. I didn't come here to hear lies. I came here to hear the truth. And we know that you were there. We know that you were responsible.
I'm guessing I was mental issues. I thought I was in.
Okay. Seeing what?
I don't know, things. Monsters.
Okay. And what'd you do?
Panicked.
Okay.
And shot.
In this moment, Kevin decided to take his chance at an insanity defense, something we've seen in other videos similar to the ones on this channel. Fortunately, his attempt was not working in any way. Kevin was then charged with the first-degree murder of both Taylor and Skyla.
A short time ago, the Okfuskee County District Attorney's Office filed first-degree murder charges related to the deaths of 13-year-old Taylor Placker and 11-year-old Skylar Whitaker. On June 8, 2008, these two young, precious girls were shot multiple times on the side of a dirt road in rural Okfuskee County near Weleetka. The Okfuskee County Sheriff's Office responded to the scene and called the OSBI for investigative assistance in this horrific and evil crime. Over the past 3.5 years, the OSBI staff has conducted nearly 650 interviews. We ran over 900 leads in this case, had performed 19,000 forensic tests on 800 pieces of evidence collected during the course of this investigation. As previously mentioned, Mr. Sweat was arrested and charged with the murder of his girlfriend this summer. In that case, the OSBI was also requested by the Okmulgee Police Department to assist in that investigation. It was during the course of that investigation that information helped us understand and realize that Mr. Sweat may have been involved in the murders of Taylor Placker and Skyla Whitaker.
We were always hopeful that we would come to this point where charges were filed, although at times we had our doubts. We feel as if we are in appropriate position to go forward with this case. I will also tell you that on this day I've also filed, along with the charges, a bill of particulars in each case. A bill of particulars is the document that we file when we are going to ask a jury to assess the death penalty.
Kevin quickly obtained state-appointed legal counsel and started discussing his defense. He decided to plead not guilty, and his attorneys then asked that he be tried once for all 3 charges. Not long after, he asked to waive his right to a jury trial and have the judge determine his guilt. But 3 days before his trial, Kevin Sweat changed his plea to guilty as a way to avoid potentially receiving the death penalty. As part of his decision to plead guilty, he also made a deal with the prosecution that he no longer needed to explain how he committed these murders or what his motive was to commit them. This meant nothing, as the investigation gathered more than enough evidence to determine exactly why he did it. Kevin was on a mission for revenge. Kevin's older brother had actually passed away as a result of a drug overdose, and Kevin believed that the drugs that caused his overdose were sold to him by Taylor Placker's older brother. During Kevin's trial for the 3 deaths, Taylor's brother even admitted to the sale that ultimately resulted in Kevin's brother's death, acknowledging that he was unaware that the drugs had been tampered with before the sale. In the end, Kevin Sweat pled guilty to each murder and avoided any chance of receiving the death penalty. And on October 24th, 2013, Kevin Sweat was waiting in the courthouse for his sentencing, right before pandemonium broke out.
The sentencing was supposed to begin at 10 o'clock this morning, and this courtroom was packed full of family and friends anxious to see what would happen. But then all of a sudden, we started hearing a commotion from outside the hallway, and then I saw a sheriff's deputy rush through that door.
It is alleged that he produced a weapon, possibly a small razor blade that he had hidden.
The Okfuskee County DA says moments before the sentencing, Sweat attacked his lawyer with that blade, cutting him on the neck. Authorities don't know where he got the blade, but say Sweat was uncuffed. Is that standard?
It is not uncommon to be uncuffed when going into the courtroom.
Kevin Sweat had smuggled a razor blade into the courthouse and attempted to murder his attorney. Luckily, the guards at the courthouse were nearby, and Kevin was disarmed mid-attack, leaving the attorney with only a small cut. Kevin Sweat was then sentenced to 3 counts of life in prison without the possibility of parole. After his sentencing, Kevin asked to withdraw the plea of guilt, stating that the man who pled guilty was not him. Instead, it was an imposter. Thankfully, this was immediately rejected.